Welcome back to Pokemon Colosseum. It's time to continue our trek through the lab. And we'll be seeing, like I said in the last part, yet more Shadow Pokemon. So, let's go. Just a disclosure here, I actually had to re-record the commentary for the first half of this video, so if anything is inconsistent with what I say in the second half, that's why. But anyway, I've forgotten where I was going last time. I guess we're heading down this elevator. So, let's see what's down here, and we'll probably get ambushed by more ceiling peons. We've got kind of a darker room here, and another scientist. Of course there is another scientist. Hey, there's something glowing on the table, though. One DNA sample. I'll get to what these are later. If we go into our inventory and check it, which is I'm pretty sure what I'm doing now, we have no idea what this does. Like I said, it'll all make sense later. Once again, these scientists are really dumb, and this guy's name is Odlo. It's kind of weird. This reminds me of, and this is a really weird thing to be saying, but, so a lot of people, like in the US, know this as Where's Waldo. It's called Where's Wally in Europe and Australia, I believe. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is that there's a villain on that whose name is Oddlaw, and the weird thing is his name doesn't make sense when it's Where's Wally, because Oddlaw is Waldo spelled backwards. Anyway, and the even weirder thing is, I think the British and Australian version actually predated the American version. But anyway, this should give you a pretty good indication of just how pathetic Electrode's explosions are. That was a critical hit, and that didn't one-shot Umbreon, and that's with halving defense, so that really says something about how weak Electrode's base attack is. Or how good Umbreon's defense is, that it can survive a crit self-destruct. You can also interpret it that way. Meanwhile, Kick Face kicks things in the face. As always, things weak to High Jump Kick tends to go down in one shot. Also, I forgot to comment on it, but Electrode's fainting animation is hilarious. I love Electrode's fainting animation. But anyway, kind of weird how you led with Magneton, and now you're just using regular Magnemite. Also kind of weird how you're not paralyzing any of my Pokemon. It's kind of like part of the Cipher researcher job description. Research Shadow Pokemon, collect DNA samples, destroy the evidence when you're done, be really annoying with paralysis. This guy unfortunately fails that last criteria. Well, it's fortunate for me, but unfortunate for his employers. Anyway, I'm going off on weird tangents here, but we defeated that scientist. Getting a little bit of money, I'll probably need to do another shopping trip eventually to get more healing items. Oh, you say that, but I just grabbed the one thing that's left here. Although it's one thing that might not necessarily be left here. Again, I'll talk about that later. Yeah, like I said, I'm going to need to restock my healing items very soon. And I still love this music, but you're probably tired. Hi! Yeah, that's kind of a jump scare, a scientist randomly being at the top of the stairs. Also, researcher Koren. Insert Ocean's Grey Waves joke here. Also, you're leading with the exact same Pokemon the other researcher led with, but his movesets are a little bit different. You'll see that soon enough. But hey, it's the classic Sol and Luna combo again. We're only slightly lower level than the opponents in this area. It is kind of weird. Regular trainers tend to be quite balanced to the level that you're expected to be at whatever point in the game you're at, but the bosses are usually much higher level. And yeah, Thunder, that's kind of painful. And hey, you're being annoying with paralysis. You are fulfilling your job description. But I paralyze Electrode back, which is going to probably mitigate its insane speed to some degree. I still find it weird how I didn't actually know for the longest time that Electrode was the fastest Pokemon period in Gens 1 and 2, only being beaten by Ninjask in Gen 3. Something that I also didn't know until people pointed out in the comments, but that Electrode actually got a 10 buff to base speed in Generation 7. It actually went up from 140 to 150. For some reason I thought it was always 150, but anyway, that crit was probably unnecessary, but once again, there's the amazing painting animation. And there it goes. But so far, this guy has missed once out of 2 with Thunder, so let's see if his luck continues. Yeah, that's 2 times out of 3. And as you can see here, even not very effective moves from Espeon do devastating damage. That's another thing. Espeon really doesn't learn very many moves in this gen apart from Psychic, but it doesn't really need much more. I decided to cure Solar Paralysis just because. And yeah, using up Umbreon's turn there. Luna's turn. I forget if I've already said this or not, because yeah, I had to re-record this commentary, but for some reason, it's not that natural to me. Also, you hit 2 times out of 4 with Thunder. That's way worse than its accuracy is supposed to be. But yeah, it's not entirely natural to me to nickname Pokemon. It's kind of weird. You might notice that I'm often referring to Pokemon by their real names as opposed to their nicknames. Well, I mean, other than Dan Green, because Dan Green is amazing. But it's just a thing with me. Like, I feel like most of the Pokemon's actual names have enough personality on their own right to not really need nicknames. And I know that it makes Pokemon, you know, your own, but I don't know. I still feel like my teams have enough personality, even if I don't nickname them. But again, that's just me. I like that quote, though. And cutting off the victory, well, not victory, but cutting off the battle music there. You say that most of them have been transported out. Also, here we have the down street key. But there is actually quite a lot of Shadow Pokemon left here, as you'll soon be seeing. So now that we have the down street key, we can head to the down street. I still always call it that, because that's what I called it when I was younger. So let's head to down street, wherever that is. And I get the feeling there is going to be a ceiling peon at some point. I think I'm going back to heal now. Okay, back here, and I don't think I was as thorough with my healing as I really should have been. You'll probably see that once I get into the next battle, which should be quite soon, because I'm sure there is a ceiling peon in this corridor. The first time they tend to surprise you, but now it's pretty easy to see them coming. Yeah, there we go. I thought so. Actually, you're a little bit earlier than I expected. Anyway, Cipher Peon Lair. Get it? Because this is Cipher's lair or something? I don't know. Vana and Nuzleaf. A Water Dark and a Grass Dark. Pretty sure Nuzleaf is Grass Dark. I know Seedot is just pure grass. So this doesn't seem that good for Sol. I might switch you out for Kickface, but Luna can probably handle this reasonably well. Let's see what I do. Actually, confusing Vana would have been hilarious, because it would have hit itself for enormous damage. And here's where I realize I really should have healed Kickface, so yeah, I can't use you at this point. So instead, I am going to go ahead and, for some reason, who do I send out here? I'd probably send out Jumpluff, because you're effective against the Vana, but well, I ended up sending out Dan Green, I guess because they're effective against that Nuzleaf. I mean, the Vana will be doing super effective damage, but for some reason, Vana just doesn't learn very many water moves, so that's another flaw of that Team Aqua has when you fight them in Pokemon Sapphire, is that the Vana line, basically they're supposed to specialize in water types, but really they mostly end up using dark moves, because I think for the longest time, Vana and Sharpedo didn't learn a single water move by leveling up. Eventually they got Hydro Pump, I think, but other than that, they didn't really learn anything. Yeah, I'm just gonna go in Fire Blast the Nuzleaf. I think you're about to see just how silly Vana's hurting themselves in Confusion can be. That was without any attack buffs at all. Yeah. So I believe Pokemon hurting themselves in Confusion, they attack themselves with a physical move that has base 30 power. I think that's how it works in Fire Blast Mist. That's annoying, but it's not really a big deal since that Nuzleaf is not that much of a threat anyway. And even a not very effective move finishes off Vana because its defense is that pathetic. But yeah, this is why Pokemon like, let's say, like Alakazam, well, actually Alakazam has pretty bad defense. Like, a Pokemon with really low attack and really high defense is going to take almost nothing from Confusion. And there's Vana. And, wow, okay, overkill. Critical hit Fire Blast on Nuzleaf. That's kind of insane. I feel bad for that Nuzleaf now. And Murkrow. Well, that's a Dark type, but I don't think we've actually seen this Dark type before. And yes, it is in fact a Shadow Pokemon. Yeah, you thought we'd seen the last of the members of the club, but no, there are even more of them here. Now, this is not a particularly good matchup, especially for Dan Green, because Houndour resists Dark and has a 50% chance of being immune to Fire Blast. Also, I only have 1 PP left for Fire Blast. Also, Murkrow has Fly. I'm just going to ignore it for now. But yeah, it could have the Flash Fire ability, which would make it completely immune to fire moves. Its other possible ability is Early Bird. Wow, I'm getting really lucky with Confusion here. And earlier I got lucky with Thunder Misses. Also, for some reason, I find Houndour's animations really funny in this game. Just the way that it slides forward on its paws, it's like they're greased or something. Just pretty funny like that. Anyway, Houndour is, I think, one of those... I forget exactly where you caught it in Gen 2. It might have been Kanto exclusive. In fact, speaking of Kanto exclusive Pokemon, there's... And if I end up saying this in the next part anyway, please let me know. But... Did you just knock yourself out in Confusion? Yes, you did. Nice. See, Confuse Ray is actually doing a decent job. But anyway, a lot of people were saying, this is something that I wanted to point out earlier in the game, but I never got the chance. A lot of people in the comments were saying that they thought that Slugma was actually a Gen 3 Pokemon. And to be honest, I can't fault anyone for thinking that. In Gen 2, when Slugma debuted, it only appeared in Kanto. And it was in, like, Cycling Road at that. It was actually really hard to find for a Gen 2 Pokemon. And you couldn't even get it until after you beat the main game. Whereas in Gen 3, Slugma was pretty much all over the areas near Lava Ridge, and trainers used it all the time around the Lava Ridge gym, so it's not hard to think that Slugma was a Gen 3 Pokemon, but it's actually not. Anyway, it's now time to do my customary counting for the purposes of video syncing, so excuse me for a moment. 1. Nope. I forget what Murkrow's exact catch rate is. I don't think it's that low. Yeah, I think I've actually forgotten where you find... I know that Murkrow only appears at night, but I'm not sure exactly where it appeared in Gold and Silver. I think it was Gold exclusive, because I think Mischievous was Silver I forget. I think it was Gold exclusive, I'm not sure. But, anyway... I still don't really understand why they made a Witch Crow evolve into a Mafia Boss Crow, but I'm not really going to question that. Yeah, let's go for another Great Ball. Hopefully this Murkrow shouldn't give me too much trouble. It's not really that big of a threat on its own. So I'm not too concerned if it takes a little while to catch. 1. Yeah, kind of thought so. Thankfully, I can actually throw Pokeballs at it while it's in the air. And it's just standing on thin air there. Oh yeah, speaking of which, someone in the comments pointed out to me that starting in Gen 4, you can't catch Pokemon during the turns of semi-invulnerable moves like Fly or Dig. So that answers my question about Giratina and Shadow Force. 1. No. Yeah, I should probably either weaken it more or try and put it to sleep. It's being kind of annoying, and Dan Green is going to fall to a Murkrow, isn't he? I mean, I probably need to go back to the healing machine anyway, but still. Slowly whittling this thing down. Now, at this point, a crit would probably knock it out, so... Then again, crits often knock things out. Yeah, I decided to go straight for the Ultra Ball this time. Now, if this doesn't catch, I'll be very surprised. 1. Wow, really? The same amount of shakes? And that means that, okay, yeah, that's probably knocked out Dan Green right there. Well, crit, yeah, that'll do it. Something was in KO range of a crit, but it wasn't them. Is that the first time that Dan Green has fainted this entire playthrough? Feels like it could be. And it was to a Murkrow of all things. Oh, and Murkrow could potentially have Insomnia, so I don't really think I want to bother with using Sleep Powder on it. Actually, in Gen 3, was Insomnia its only possible ability? I think that was actually the case. I know that it got Super Luck in Gen 4, which I mainly know for being epically mistranslated when Gen 4 first came out. I'll talk about that in a second. 1, 2, 3... Murkrow gets. What else can I really say about Murkrow? It's another member of the club. Its stats are kind of similar to Stantler in that it leans a little bit towards mixed attacking, but the problem is, and this is something that I didn't realize until I was making this bio, Murkrow's move pool is atrocious in Gen 3. You might notice that I've written none for notable level up moves. This is because the only move that Murkrow learns past level 43, where you catch it at, is Mean Look, a move that this Murkrow already starts with anyway. So there's literally nothing for Murkrow to learn via level up, and TM moves aren't much better. It's another one of those Pokemon that are a part of the why does this thing get Rain Dance club, but I guess that's a possibility. There's really not much that Murkrow can do. In terms of the moves that it already starts with, it's got an alright assortment of things, mainly Fly. Nightshade is an okay source of fixed damage, and Feint Attack is alright. As I said back at Misdreavus' bio, Mean Look isn't that good in single player since the AI almost never switches. I really hate having to say this, but I can't see any real reason to use Murkrow in this game. Anyway, what I was saying was that Super Luck, when Gen 4 first came out in Japanese, it got mistranslated, well, people mistranslated it as Bad Luck, and thought that it increased the chances of your opponent getting critical hits, but I don't really know why they'd make an ability like that on a Pokemon that was not intentionally needing of a handicap, like Archeops or Slacking. But yeah, that was kind of interesting. I remember when I first heard that, I was like, what? Why does that ability exist? And then people said, okay, so it's actually not bad luck, it's strong luck, and it actually increases your odds of critical hits. But anyway, I'm just going to go back to the healing machine, and I think that's where I actually end this half of the video, so I'll probably just be cutting back to the next half, where if I repeat anything that I said in this half of the video, I apologize, because like I said, I had to re-record the first half of this video's audio, so yeah. Anyway, see you after I heal here. Okay, let's continue on through the down street where we were so rudely interrupted last time. And I think I should also probably take this time to mention that if you fail to snag any of these Shadow Pokemon, also there's another DAR sample in this room, I couldn't really see it in the video, but it's there. We've already got plenty, but let's just say no. Well, all of them except that Apom and Murkrow, and as we'll be seeing, even more. If we say yes, yeah, he says they're all gone. This is kind of an interesting plot point because we're actually approaching the end of most of the Shadow Pokemon in the main story. There's really only one area they could have gone to, and it's kind of weird to think that all of them they ever made have all been shipped to that one area. And yeah, I thought there'd be another Ceiling Peon here. Cipher Peon Vana. Hey, that's also a kind of normal name. I'm not going to be making Wheel of Fortune jokes, though. Anyway, Pupitar and Forretress. I don't think we've seen a Forretress before. We've seen a lot of Pinecos, but not a Forretress. We've also seen a couple of Pupitars, so that's nothing special, but it's going to fall pretty quickly to Giga Drain. However, another Pokemon wasn't moved elsewhere. Forretress is a Shadow Pokemon, and thankfully it is very, very sturdy, so we don't really need to worry too much about KOing it. Something, that I probably should just mention here is, this Forretress on Purification has Explosion. Thankfully, that's its Purification move, so it can't use it as an AI Pokemon. That would be absolutely nightmarish if the AI trainers had a Shadow Pokemon that could self-destruct. But thankfully, this Forretress can't. So, yeah, thank goodness for Shadow Rush replacing that move slot. Anyway, goodbye Pupitar, that Pupitar didn't last very long at all. What's Forretress going to do? I'm guessing Shadow Rush, maybe? Zubat? Wow, we've gone this long, and this is legitimately the first villainous team member we've seen who uses Zubat. This game was way ahead of its time. That's pretty amazing. However, this Zubat is not going to last long. I'm really surprised that you're just using Zubat now and not Golbat. It's really late into the game, as I said. See, it's barely even giving any experience. Swablu. Well, we already have a Shadow Swablu, so that's not really going to be... Oh, missed with Sleep Powder. Not really going to be a Shadow Pokemon or anything new to us, is what I was trying to say, I think. Wow, getting knocked out by... I forget exactly how high Forretress' attack stat is, but it's probably not the best, but not terrible either. Now, obviously, I do not want to use Dan Green's Fire Blast against that Forretress, because that would be horrible. Bug Steel type means Forretress takes severe damage from fire, but that is, I believe, its only weakness. Breaking out the revives already. Guess I don't want to have to go back to the PC again. Because I already went back once. Anyway, this is going to be neutral because Swablu is normal flying. If it was evolved into Altaria, this would actually be not very effective because it'd be dragon flying. That revive meant that Soul could actually claim the experience there. Something that I should kind of mention here is, you might notice that I'm being very inconsistent often with when I refer to Pokemon by their nicknames and by their actual names. It's just something with me when I play Pokemon. I actually never really nickname my Pokemon that often. It doesn't really come naturally to me. I mean, I'm doing it more and more now, but it's more that a lot of the Pokemon names I consider to have enough personality on their own to not really need changing. I know that nicknaming makes a Pokemon sort of like your own, but to me they still get their own personalities even if I don't nickname them. But again, that's just me. Oh no, that could be bad. Although you have an enormous defense stat, so you're not going to be doing very much damage to yourself in Confusion. Yeah, by the way, if you don't know exactly how Confusion works, you know this snag could succeed right now, seeing as this is a netball. You actually might want a few netballs going in here, because Forretress is not the only bug-type Shadow Pokemon in this area. 1, 2, 3... Forretress gets the power of netballs. Weirdly enough, Forretress is the first obtainable Steel type in Colosseum. Yeah, it took them a while. But it just so happens to be a very, very good one, in every respect besides its ability, which isn't that useful in Gen 3. Bug Steel is a fantastic typing, just stay away from any fire moves. Forretress's main asset is its enormous physical defense, and fairly decent HP, making it a great physical wall, and with 90 base attack, it's not that bad offensively either. Just be warned that it is very, very slow. Heck, Forretress has so many special resistances that it can even tank special hits reasonably well. To put in perspective just how good Forretress's defensive abilities are, at this point in the series, it was even used quite frequently in competitive Ubers. You know, against things like Mewtwo. As far as moves go, there's one main notable one on its starting moveset, well, at least after it's purified: Explosion. And I want to extend a really big thank you to the developers for making this Forretress's purification move so that the AI can't use it against you. I've said before that Explosion halves the target's defense in this game, so it's effectively a 500 base power move. But it hits everything in double battles, including your partner, meaning that its power is going to be reduced, and you'll want to either pack a partner that resists it, or carries Protect. Personally, I really don't like using suicide moves on my Pokemon during the main story. I just feel that's a bit too cruel to my beloved team members. But if you want to do it, it's a pretty powerful move, so if you've got a good stock of revives, go ahead. Its other moves aren't that notable though. Rapid Spin is only really good in multiplayer, not single player. And speaking of Rapid Spin, Forretress will eventually learn one of its main claims to fame, Spikes. Now, again, this is a move that's probably better in multiplayer than it is in single player. However, seeing as very few Pokemon in Colosseum learn this, it could be a decent move to teach. You could potentially have opposing Pokemon taking 25% of their health and damage anytime they switch in, which is great against opponents later in the game that have full teams of 6. Forretress also gets some pretty good TM moves. Dual Screens, Toxic, Earthquake. If you want to go more of a stalling route, you can use Dig. Sandstorm, because it itself is immune to that. Anyway, Forretress is a really great Pokemon if you want to use it. Completely forgot that I had those too. Yep, so we've beaten Vana. Calibre Cuff Pauladine. I'm sorry I had to say it. Anyway. And she just vanishes entirely. Am I going to completely waste a Hyper Potion here? I completely wasted a Hyper Potion here. I healed just over a quarter of the amount that can potentially heal for. Then again, we're getting a lot of money here. We'll probably be doing another major shop after this area is over, so it shouldn't be that big a deal to use this many healing items also. Ah, hi there! I forgot about you. You actually did blindside me. Cyberpeon Lesar? You probably got teased a lot as a child. Rhyhorn and Ariados. Ariados, or... I know its name is from Ariadne, the Greek, I don't even think she was a goddess, but... with the thread and the spiders and Athena and that myth. And it's a Shadow Pokemon! How fitting, the person named Lesar has the lesser bug type compared to Forretress, I guess. I really wish Ariados got an evolution. Or a Mega. But like I said earlier, at least we have Galvantula for a cool spider Pokemon. It's funny, if Pokemon were real, I actually would want a Galvantula. I can just imagine it sort of crawling on my shoulder or something like that. Sludge Bomb, though, coming off of an Ariados is going to be kind of painful, especially super effective like that. Yeah, Ariados, I believe, has a pretty decent attack stat, so that is going to hurt a lot. Sludge Bomb being physical in this generation. So the trainers in this area don't mess around. They're actually a pretty big step up from earlier. Also, this guy has a Grovyle. Oh look! It's Dan Green versus Dan Green! This is actually pretty amazing. I think I must have thought about this matchup when I was first playing this game too. Firstly though, we have Soul Use return on Ariados, but then the real fun begins. Clash of the Dan Green rolls! Who will win? Who is the most Dan Greeniest of them all? Unfortunately, not Grovyle. I think I've seen bits of that Mystery Dungeon anime special, but Grovyle is pretty awesome, and I'm very glad that he's voiced by Dan Green. Please don't poison. Thank you. You wouldn't be able to poison yourself with Synchronize, but the poison damage would probably add up. We're taking quite a beating from this Ariados. I probably shouldn't have mocked it earlier. I feel like I just sacrificed Soul there. Let's see what happens. But yeah, I feel like that, you know, being Australian in a country where we have the most deadly spiders in the world, that I shouldn't really like Galvantula, but for some reason, I just really like Galvantula. Actually, haven't managed to find a Galvantula plush. I definitely want one. I think I saw one like online once, but haven't actually got one of those yet. Actually managed to get a Tyranitar plush recently, which was pretty cool. I think one of the next on my list is maybe Decidueye, although the big starter plushes tend to be quite expensive. And in Australia, you basically have to import those unless you're lucky and an anime merchandise shop sells them, because, I mean, sometimes conventions have them, but most mainstream stores, I mean, I was lucky enough that Tyranitar one wasn't a mainstream store, but most of them tend not to have these. Also, like I said, netballs. Netballs are kind of useful here. 1, 2, 3. Ariados get, once again, the power of netballs. Well, I wish Ariados was a member of the club, but sadly it isn't, so it's stuck the way it is. And that's as a pretty mediocre Gen 2 Pokemon. In fact, all of Ariados' base stats are equal to or worse than Forretress, the last Pokemon we snagged. That doesn't really do it any favors. In particular, its only good stat is attack, and it's very slow for something that doesn't have the best defenses. Much like a lot of bug types in this game, it learns some decent moves by TM, but doesn't really have the stats to make use of them. However, Ariados does have one very big thing going for it that actually might make it worth using in Colosseum, and that's having Sludge Bomb on its starting movesets. Not many Pokemon in this game start out with such a strong stab move. Take Quillfish, for example, another obtainable poison type. It only starts with Poison Sting. So while it may be the last move that Ariados regains, having such a strong stab move coming off a base 90 attack stat actually hits pretty hard. For that reason alone, Ariados can kinda stand above its mediocre stats and at least be somewhat useful, so it's definitely an option. And I think that's all we'll be needing the netballs for a while. There are some more bug types coming up, though. Just not in this area. So, if I know myself right, I'm probably going to go back and heal now. Either that or I use a bunch of revives because I couldn't be bothered to go back to the PC. Do I go back to the PC, or do I continue on even with fainted Pokemon? Having Jumpluff fainted going forward is bad, because there are still some more Shadow Pokemon in this area. Okay, doesn't look like there's much around here. There had to be a purpose to this room. There had to be some kind of purpose to this room, because there was a guy guarding it, but... maybe the purpose was just that Shadow Pokemon. Looks like that's a dead end, so let's keep moving. Oh, there are going to be more Ceiling Peons in here, aren't there? I just know there are Ceiling Peons in here. Okay, no Ceiling Peon here, but I get the feeling there's going to be one in front of that elevator, so let me just try and get that. Yeah, I knew it! I knew it! I knew it! Getting this out of the way now. Once you get surprised by the Ceiling Peons for the first time, you generally don't get surprised by them again. They are pretty predictable in where they place them. Lesar did manage to surprise me, though. Okay, this is a good fight for Kickface, as long as I don't kick that Grand Ball in the face, because it is not Fairy type, so it takes super effective damage. Haven't actually used Suicune much here. Oh, by the way, that Grand Ball is a Shadow Pokemon, that's why I didn't want to kick it in the face. And there's Intimidate. So I have another Intimidate using Pokemon. Let's see if I can carry the Vigoroth through Intimidate, though. Because carrying things through Intimidate is always a fun thing to boast about. In competitive play, whenever you... oh, you just barely survived, didn't you? Yes, you did. Aerial Ace! Uh-oh, Kickface is not going to like that. Okay, he thankfully survived. Please don't get Shadow Rushed. Well, there's one thing Gust is good for, and it's weakening Shadow Pokemon. It even looks kind of pathetic. Grand Ball also has a pretty funny damage animation. Its jaw just goes flying backwards. Please hit Suicune. Unfortunately not. I definitely need to go back and heal after this fight. Let's go... how about I send in Dungreen? Definitely don't want to Rain Dance, though, if that's the case. Okay, that Vigoroth just barely survived. It needs to go now, and Suicune can go ahead and... I'm actually not sure. Because that Grand Ball's actually kind of a strong prospect to be facing. Let's see what else you send out, though. Your theme seems to be normal types for now. So, what do we have here? Linoon! More normal types. Normal type I kind of wish was a Shadow Pokemon, because I really like Linoon, as I said earlier in this playthrough. Definitely my favourite of the early game, normal types. Although I still wish that... so, apparently Extreme Speed is, I think, still event exclusive, which is really, really frustrating. I think it's a 3rd-gen event at that. Because one of its main claims to fame in competitive is Belly Drum, Gluttony, Berry, Extreme Speed. And it can't do that without events, which is annoying. And good luck getting an event Zigzagoon with good IVs and a good nature. I wish they did it like the Dragonite in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, where they made Extreme Speed an egg move, so that even though the first one you got was essentially an event move, you know, the one that had Extreme Speed, you could use it to breed more that had Extreme Speed. I wish that was the same with Zigzagoon. Like, they still have it as an event move, but then make it an egg move forward in later generations, so that people who got that event can breed more of them. I don't know. Speaking of Pokemon that's main claim to fame in competitive is only accessible via events, Entei! Yeah, and it's the same move too, Extreme Speed, which it got via a Gen 5 event that suddenly shot Entei up into actually being pretty good. That and Flare Blitz, but that's less useful now that Entei gets Sacred Fire, which is actually pretty amazing for it. Well, this is my typical Fire Blast luck. This is why I don't like using Fire Blast in competitive. But let's see. Probably shouldn't have wasted those Gusts on Linoon, because I know that Fire Blast, once it does finally hit, is probably going to one-shot it. Oh, yay, Otis Luth. That's a great move. It can be useful in a few niche situations, though. Mainly against things that have double team, such as a certain optional boss fight in this game that you'll be seeing actually pretty soon. So look forward to that. Yeah, stab strength coming off of Grand Ball is pretty strong. Ow, that wasn't even... Okay, I think I have been tail whipped a couple of times. Finally this hits, though. It's 1 out of 3. That is not 85% accuracy. Then again, a trainer earlier on missed twice out of 4 with Thunder, so I can't really be complaining. Right, only Grand Ball left. This means I am losing a lot of Pokemon here. I don't even have my Sleep Inducer. Might even need to use a Revive here. I'm not sure exactly how I approach this. We'll see. Suicune is probably defensive enough to tank a couple of strengths even after a few Tail Whips. Should probably mention that I do really like Suicune. Like, it being the mascot of Crystal and being the first legendary Pokemon ever to have its own battle theme definitely helped. But yeah, it's always been one of my favorite legendaries, both in terms of its gameplay performance and just due to my good memories of using it, both in this game and back in Crystal. I'm still not entirely sure why they made it like the embodiment of the North Wind, even though it's a water type and barely learns any flying moves. Well, it does get Tailwind in later generations, which was actually pretty cool, being one of the... Well, for a long time, before Tailwind was a move tutor, Suicune was one of the few non-flying types that could actually learn Tailwind, which gave it something pretty unique, because the majority of Pokemon that learned Tailwind before it became a move tutor move were actually pretty terrible. Like Articuno! Yeah. And Articuno was great back in Gen 1, but then Rocks happened. And then Blizzard got nerfed, and then it, yeah, was not really that great. Outside of earlier on. I still find Moltres interesting though, the fact that a fire type actually found success in Rain of all things, with Hurricane, and its fire moves being so strong that it could carry what it needed to KO even through Rain. Anyway, let's see if I can get myself a Grand Ball. 1, 2, 3. Grand Ball gets! First ball, wow. Word of warning to anyone used to later Pokemon games. Grand Ball is not a fairy type in this gen, it is normal. As a result, it plays quite differently. It's available pretty late for a normal type, but Grand Ball makes up for that by having a really huge attack stat and fairly decent HP. It also has the Intimidate ability, which is again one of the best abilities in doubles. Now, being a normal type with Intimidate, that means that it does face some competition with Stantler. Of the two, Stantler has a wider move pool and can use special attacks much better, whereas Grand Ball is much more powerful. So it really comes down to personal preference. Grand Ball also benefits from having Strength on its starting moveset, which again is the same type attack bonus move for it in this gen. Unfortunately, while it does learn Crunch later on, that's special in this gen, so it can't make the best use of that. But Grand Ball does have a surprisingly wide physical move pool, learning things like Brick Break, Shadow Ball, and even Sludge Bomb. It also has Roar on its starting moveset, which is an interesting option. If you want to use the Forretress earlier in the lab, that combos very well with Forretress's Spikes move. But if you want a really unconventional tactic, you can actually do some interesting things via aiming Roar at your partner. You can use this to kind of copy the effect of U-turn in later generations. Your partner gets to get an attack off, and then gets forcibly switched out, but thanks to Roar's negative priority, the switch in won't have to worry about being attacked at all that turn. Another weird tactic is using Roar on your partner to avoid the recharge turn of Hyper Beam, which is actually a strategy that some AI opponents in this game use. Those are more just some little fun ideas than actual serious tactics though. Anyway, Grand Ball does its job very well, as both an Intimidate user and a strong physical attacker. So we've got ourselves quite a few Shadow Pokemon here. It doesn't really look like... Oh, I can't say that word without thinking of Maryland's Super Mystery Dungeon playthrough. I really like the character of the partner in Super. I think they're probably my favourite partner characterization in the Mystery Dungeon series. But anyway, we have 2 elevators to choose from here. One of them goes up and leads us into a bit of a lab area that I think we have seen before in the background. These machines look kind of important. Let's see. It's a DNA analyzer. We can finally find out what these DNA samples are. I only got 2 of them though, so let's check. I think you need 3 of them in total. The This is Bayleaf. I believe this changes based on which one you picked. I'm actually not sure. And this is Suicune. Wow, Legendary is DNA. That's pretty impressive, actually. So anyway, we have our 2 DNA samples analysed, but like I said, I believe we need 3 of them in total, so there's at least 1 more. Actually, I'm going to stop the video right there for a second. It's been so long since I played this game that I've forgotten about how the whole DNA sample system works, but here's the thing. It turns out there are 9 potential DNA samples that you can find. Only 3 of them will appear in any given playthrough, and it's actually randomized which they are. The different DNA samples have different locations, so you might not necessarily find DNA samples in the same locations that I did. Like I said, you actually get a random assortment of 3 out of 9 possible ones. I'm guessing that that room that was empty for me, that was guarded by Lessar, would have contained a DNA sample, potentially. We'll get into what the DNA samples are actually for at the very end of this dungeon, but for now, just remember that there are actually multiple potential places they can be located at, and multiple different Pokemon they could be from when you use the analyzer. So, your playthrough may differ from mine in this case. I thought it was important that I point this out because a lot of people online freak out when they find that DNA samples aren't where guides say they are. This is because they're actually randomized, and there aren't a lot of guides out there that fully explain how this works. I'm going by Bulbapedia, so I'm pretty sure this is accurate. Guess we can check where that other elevator goes. Or past me got confused. Like I said, this place isn't quite as confusing as Pyrite Cave, but it is a little bit complicated. And I think I'm actually going back to heal, so I might as well cut to when that happens. Yes, if you can't tell by now, this PC is going to get a lot of use as we progress through this place. I dread to think what people who don't know that PCs heal would do here. They'd probably have to go all the way back to Phoenix City or something to use the Pokemon Center. But anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and heal here. As you can see, we've got 4 new Shadow Pokemon to our name, so we're making a lot of progress here, although this also means that we're going to need to purify a lot more Pokemon. So, I think that'll be enough for this time. Next time we'll be continuing on into the Shadow Pokemon Lab. Yeah, this place is pretty long, so I'll see you then for more Shadow Lab exploration, and this won't even be the last part of the lab. Yeah, not since Pyrite Building and Pyrite Cave have we had a dungeon this long, and I actually really like this place, though. It's kind of refreshing after how short the Under Arc was. But anyway, I'll be ending this part off soon, and I will see you next time.